looking to add a little bit of drama to your guitar solos, well, maybe these tips will help you. Because adding drama to solos or building some type of suspense is really what engages a listener and makes them want to keep listening to your solo. So there's a couple ways that I have picked up on how to do this from my favorite guitar players, and now I'm going to tell you what those things are. The first kind of precursor to this is I consider most dramatic solos in the context that I'm going to be doing this lesson is kind of like a hard rock, like epic sound. Of course, you can build dynamically in any genre, but for the purpose of this lesson, we're going to be in the hard rock, melodic rock sound. So, the first thing you want to do is develop a motif, some kind of melody that begins your statement on the guitar. All the dust settles and all that's left. Really simple. I think that's the primary element of any motif, is it has to be something that's singable. So I did a lesson that I will link at the end of this video about building dynamics. So this is very reminiscent of that lesson in that you want to have a melody that is singable, memorable, that somebody can latch onto right away and understand, oh, this dude's taking a solo, he's gonna build it up. So you want to have a motif that is generally simple, not too many octaves, maybe keep it within one octave. And yeah, just something that resonates with you. So apparently this is going to be my motif for this lesson. So now that I have that, there is a build-up that begins. It's time to begin the ascent. So as the bars in the music pass by, you want to then develop your motif, which means a couple different things. You can embellish the motif, which means generally play the same thing but with some added notes or some displaced rhythms. So an embellishment of this might be something like this. Or something like this. Something that's not too over the top, but also isn't the exact same thing as what you just played. There's nothing wrong with playing the motif over and over to really hammer it home, but if you want to develop it and embellish a little bit, usually a couple added notes here and there, varied rhythms, is a great way to do this. An alternative to embellishing the motif, or in addition to, you can add fills in between your melodic ideas. So an example of that would be something like this. So two completely different licks there. That could almost be a motif in itself. But ideally, when you begin your solo, you're leaving some space. That's important in order for the listener to understand, oh, that's what he's saying. That's the melody that I should be grasping onto. So the solo starts. Space. As you develop. So you can either embellish the motif like I mentioned previously, or you can add some fills. Now, as we near the climactic part of your solo, and obviously this is subjective. I don't know how long a solo you're taking. Maybe it's 20 minutes long. But as you get near the climax of whatever point in the solo you've taken, you have a couple options. The first one would be to maybe play your motif in a higher octave. So say you begin your ascent and you are bridging the gap. So that is a great way to indicate that, hey, we're getting serious now. I'm not messing around. I'm not developing any motif anymore. You already know what's going on. And generally higher up on the guitar neck is a more screaming sound. So you're getting closer to that top of your narrative arc, so to speak. If you were to speak out of your guitar, you're starting to get loud, you're starting to get aggressive. So using an octave of your original motif in whatever form it took would be a great way to reach that climax. So quoting that motif is a great thing to do. You don't always have to do that. Maybe you are done with that motif. That melody is history. You want to just shred your face off, or the faces of your audience. That's cool too. There's not any kind of rules that you have to follow. These are just suggestions, but any climax of a solo is usually best by a screaming, some kind of bend. And it could be set up by a crazy run. Doesn't have to be, but generally that inertia will carry you in naturally to an epic bend to finish off your solo. To recap, we would start with a little motif, gradually embellish and or add fills surrounding that motif, and then those fills or embellishments would lead us up to a higher range on the guitar neck, which would allow us access to either cite the motif in a higher octave or just continue on with various licks of our choosing, which would subsequently end in a dramatic run of notes, screaming bend, everybody cheers, and you go into the epic halftime chorus to end the song. So that's about what I'm going to try now. I'm gonna throw on a little track and rip out a solo, and hopefully I follow the rules that I just laid out in this lesson. I hope it was helpful for you guys, and I will see you next time.